Hi, welcome to On the Nose again. Super happy to have you get to see your face, and I love your hair. So, how are how are things?
Ah, okay, let's see. It's a lot worse since last time. Just this. Okay. Whew. In the last 5 months, I've got COVID twice and got some stomach things and got a whole series of infections, and life has been recovering like almost exclusively.
And you're still doing like chemo, right?
Every other
So
week.
so you're living with basically poisoning your body and then trying to recover from viruses and other stuff at the same time. That sounds pretty much impossible.
Well, and it's gotten me a lot of time. I again like 2019, I probably wasn't gonna make it halfway through 2019, and because of all that, I'm still here. But huge caveat: the time it does buy you, kind of rough.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you have the time so that, we can interact with each other. But I hate that the ride isn't as fun as it should be.
Hey, well, back at you.
Yeah.
Like
I
the
know. I've
whole
thought
thing.
about that. I've thought about like with like how bad I feel and have felt for the last decade. If they were like, you have cancer and you're gonna need to do like chemo and stuff, I'm not sure that I would agree to the lower quality of life because I'm already kind of at that point where I'm like, I would have to really think about it, you know?
Oh, with me, it was just automatic. Do whatever you want and do it right now, because I could tell I was gonna die in a few days. Like it was very very clear, and
Hmm.
they're just like, we can do this and this and that, and it's only gonna get you months because you're not gonna make it outside of this year. You shouldn't be alive right now. And I'm like, well, just do it. And my kid had the same attitude. I see a cough, and I'm just gonna keep going. But
Yeah, keep going.
they were like, hey, there's a low chance this treatment's gonna really work. And if you want, you can just go home and die in peace instead of doing more treatments. And my kid was just like, life's not that great anyway. Just turn the machine up, whatever. Like I really, I was like, that negative attitude's from me. Ooh. It like actually paid off for once, because they're just like, let's try to be happy and free the last few whatever's of your life. And yeah, they're just like, nah, life's not that great. Just try and see if it works.
Yeah.
I did my
So you're
hair.
just, yeah, it looks really good. It's so vibrant.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited because I got a fan going, and it just keeps taking it everywhere. But yeah, yeah. Okay, so I already know for sure that um the chemo I've been on for the last however many months didn't do anything. Technically nothing has worked. There's been the same progression of the tumors ever since I had this big surgery to remove a bunch of them. I will get. Oh, and how about this? Nothing has ever helped. Oh my goodness, story of my life, right?
I feel that. I feel that.
But so they're gonna start ramping it up with different stuff. Like the next one is gonna be rougher. I'm gonna be sick all the time. My hair's gonna fall back out. People look at me and they're like, "Oh, well, it's cool that your hair never fell out." I'm like, "No, it grows fast. It
Yeah.
it, it was completely bald not that long ago." But yeah, it's gonna fall back out. And I thought, well, at least I've been enjoying it, and I am not really inclined to do any wigs right now. Not that it's a big
Yeah.
deal, but like I'm just like just gonna use it all up while it's still in there. Because when it started to fall out that first time, I freaked out. I thought I was gonna be very stoic and brave and just let the hair go and just be the whatever's, even though I use it as a security blanket. And, But once it
Yeah.
started, like, it would wrap around my wrist at night when I'm tossing and turning. And when I would go to the bathroom, and I'm like, I only wear jeans. That's all I have. And it's like, I don't know. It's maybe it's an autism thing. Who knows? But like, when I would get up from sitting down, I would pull my pants up and it would get hairs in it. And I'd have all these hairs down the back of my underwear. And I was just like, yeah, it would just get tangled and stuff. And I would just, instead of being all like, I thought I was gonna do what I can and be brave, but it was worse than that. I would call a hairdresser and I'm just like, you gotta take it away, take it away. You got, and I'm dying and it's cancer and you gotta take it away. And they just straight up hung up on me. I don't know what they thought was
Oh.
happening, but it was just like click. So I had to call back and I'm like, I am down the road and I have cancer. Will you please cut my hair off? It's driving me crazy. And they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotta put on my rational adult's voice. Like,
Yeah. Did it help like just getting rid of it?
yeah, that helps so much. You know what? At that point, it didn't matter that I didn't have a security blanket because I didn't have anything really. Everything that was normal was completely gone. And so that was just added to the pile of unusual things happening. And okay, one part of it was fun is that this takes a minute and I got it all cleaned up. And then and I like it to be all flat, so I flattened it. And then after I flattened it, I've just, I don't know, taken the last hour to rest. And that's hard. Like
Yeah.
every single day only has a few minutes where I can be productive. Oh,
Yep. I
the,
spend my daily allotment of energy on making food. That's my because
yeah.
it's like I can't eat like pre-made stuff because it makes my condition worse. So I have to put it's like it's really frustrating because like right now, just being upright like this, just I'm gonna be done for 2 days. And it's worth it sometimes, but I can't do it every day. And I used to cut my own hair, like I would just buzz it myself. And I would, it's so tiring having your arms like that and just
Mm,
yeah. So my hair's part of whatever's wrong with me, my hair started falling out like the day my symptoms set in November. I
oh,
literally I'll clog the drain, like the pipes in the shower in 3 days from how much hair I'm losing. And my hair's not long, right? So I got
mm,
this haircut that kind of like um hides like, you can see like how much I'm missing. And I know a lot of people have hairs that are really far apart, so like my hair kind of looks like theirs now, but I have
mm,
like I have lots and lots of hair and it's very condensed and so I was like, oh, I have to cut it to get it into a style that doesn't show it. Like if it was longer, I wouldn't be able to tie it back because there's so much hair missing from the front or whatever, but it just hasn't like slowed down since November. And like today there was like something touching my arm and I thought it was a bug. And it's just like my hair is all over my clothes, you know?
mm.
And I keep having like where I think there's a spider or something. I mean, no, it's just a hair falling off of me, no idea why, just because it started before the thyroid stuff did. So it's just the doctors are always like, well, maybe it's just stress. And I'm like, maybe it's like a hint for something, a clue. Why don't we look at that? No,
They
it's
love
probably
to
just
just throw
stress.
threats out there as a catch-all.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't know, maybe, but maybe not.
I don't know. It didn't get worse when I came in your office, so that's probably not it.
I know. I'm like, look at my blood pressure. It's 95 over 50. How stressed out am I? Like, yeah, yeah, like,
Yeah, no, I
but
felt very free to just. And then what's messed up is like there's probably about 30 or 40 hairs that never slowed down. So I just had this kind of toilet brush effect. So I get one of those little trimmers, one of those little body trimmers or whatever. It says like bikini zone, whatever, Walgreens, whatever, and I just gonna like do it in the
yeah.
top of my head with it. But
That's that's funny, that you had just a few, like, sporadic it's almost like the chin hairs, but they were up there,
oh yeah, it was like Bert. It was yeah, yeah.
like Bert.
Sesame Street. Yeah, yeah. No, I had there. Yeah, no, my kid had the same thing happen when the chemo would uh, when it would stop or there'd be a few hairs, and yeah, they're just like my head's a toilet brush.
My, stepmom, when she went through chemo and she shaved her head, and, when her hair grew back, she had these, like, little curls, and she had, like, just broad, straight hair, and, she had, like, the cutest little when her hair was because she was, like, positive she's gonna be so ugly with short hair, and she was, like, devastated she cut her hair off, and it actually looked really adorable on her, and then when she had those little curls, I was like, "Oh, it's so cute," so every time I came over, I'd just be like, "Oh, you're so cute."
I don't like me with short hair too much, but for some reason I was just cool with no hair. Like I kept up the clown stuff whenever I had the energy to, and I don't know. I think it was easier because I was spending all my time at a hospital because my kid was dying at the same time. So I'm just like,
Yeah.
there's like bald kids around everywhere. Because whenever I go visit, and there's other kids, and I just kind of remember like some of them looking really depressed because they're waiting on their wig or whatever, and because not everybody could just rent out and buy one, and there's like a free wig service for all the kids, but they're not there every day. And so occasionally a kid will have to go and wander around and just get some exercise with no hair. And I would just kind of like, if I had a wig, I'd take it off or a hat or whatever. I'd be like, hey,
Yeah.
kid, do you have cancer? Because I do. And it's just like, just to be a snot about it and fun and walk around in this t shirt that says jerk. Oh my goodness. There used to be this TV channel called Hub, and one of the shows on there was Dan Versus, and it's just got this character in this black T-shirt that says "jerk," and just every single week he takes revenge on somebody, just some minor thing, and I never want to know someone like that in real life. Oh, maybe I do. Well, I don't like them, but like, um, it was so outrageous, and it just made me smile a lot. So I had my I didn't make any merchandise, but I put jerk on the shirt and started wearing that around just for funsies. And I remember at one point at the children's hospital, I got a severe ear infection, and I think it's an hour and a half from home. So I just tried to wait it out. My kid had already been in the hospital for a month, and I'm thinking if I just kind of hang in there just a little bit longer with this ear infection, I'll be able to go home and take care of it. And on the day we are supposed to leave, they got a fever, and they're like, okay, at least 3 more days because we got to put antibiotics. Like it was just that severe immune compromise stuff. You got to just go with
Yeah.
it. And my ear swelled shut, and I started getting fevers, and they're like, I was just like, there's actually nothing I can do. I don't have a car. Somebody will come pick us all up when it's time to go back home, but like that's not going to happen today, and it's not going to happen over some ear infection. And they're like, well, we're a hospital, go down to the ER. I'm like, it's a children's ER, and they're like, you can't be turned away, just go to the ER. So I go down there, and since it's so severe and my face is swollen and it's all kinds of wrecked, they kind of put me further into the line, and then they run out of rooms. So they have me sitting on a gurney in the hallway, which is cool because I don't have anything sensitive or embarrassing going on. But then as some kids go past me and wait longer than I'm going to have to, they see an adult being served in a t-shirt that says jerk. So horrible.
It's almost perfect though.
I did like about not having hair, that's why I started talking about how it just takes forever. Um, when I had no hair and my skin got really dry because of all the treatments, I got this really rich, luxurious body wash, the kind that I could never have because my skin's too oily. And I would wash my whole body, and I would wash with that all the way up to my forehead. And then I would do my face wash, and I'm already done. And I'm like, done.
It makes yeah, not having hair makes that part so easy. It's like the first time I buzzed my head completely, I think I was like 16, and that's kind of been my go-to. And whenever I'm feeling really like disconnected from myself, I'll just shave my head and then I feel better. And then what happens is after a while I start feeling self-conscious about something and then I'll grow my hair out. And it's a weird cycle, but the shaved head is always kind of where I feel the best, like in my skin, you know?
I've never experienced that, but I immediately start having fun.
It
Oh
also
no,
makes
you
wigs a lot easier.
does. Oh, like that's when I started collecting wigs because I was doing clown stuff with the same wig every single time. Um, which it was a nice one. It had this big neon green pigtails and then these pink streaks running all through it. And that was my clown look every time. And I was consistent with that stuff, but just not my face because I like to do my face different every time. But I don't know. I have a little tiny bit of a contrarian in me or more. No. I when my hair was gone, somebody came up and they said, "Don't worry. We can get you a wig and you'll look completely natural like nothing happened." And I was just thinking the hair that fell out was blue. I'm not even looking natural. And so I went and got a rainbow wig. And whenever I say that, people picture that weird curly thing. But
Hmm.
and it's got like, well, I mean, it's basically this.
Yeah.
Only instead of like going this way, it goes this way. But I have this long, straight rainbow wig. And I started wearing that everywhere and just having a blast. And then I realized this is a lot of work. But to just put a different wig on is almost none. Not anymore. But not anymore because now brushing it out, it's a whole thing. But like it's
Yeah.
still a lot faster. And I don't know, I kind of got addicted to that in the lockdown. I like being like, I don't have a color for this theme. I don't have a color for that theme. And there are really cheap garbage ones, but my bedroom is ruined and all this cool movie memorabilia and like dinosaur stuff. And now the walls just have all these little hooks with wigs on them.
I get like wig hair all over the place whenever I make content. It's just, you know, and then also like the bangs, if they have bangs, they're always too long, so then I have to cut them and it's never quite right because I don't know how to cut hair. So it's like a whole thing.
Wow. I never considered cutting them.
I can't like it drives
They're-
me crazy when it touches my eyes, like and they'll like
oh,
it'll
yeah.
like poke me in the eye and I'm like, "Ugh."
It drives me, it never pokes me, but like it gets caught in my giant fake lashes and then it
Yeah,
moves
that
like
too.
this
And
when
then
I
it'll
blink.
push. Sometimes I can't open my eye all the way because the wig hair is pushing on the eyelash.
Mhm. And then you're making these weird zombie faces by accident.
There, there was I have this hat with a netting like a, like fancy 60 style or whatever. And my eyelash just kept getting stuck on the netting. And in the video, it was like a Marilyn Manson song or something. You could see like I would be like lipsticky, but my eye would be like
Neat. Yeah, no, it would I always just kind of I never make any plans, which has not been going well lately because my brain's checked out half the time. But early on, when I was start making the TikTok videos, I would just put a face and just see what happens. And sometimes I'd get in a zone and be really talking about something, be really pumped up. And then when I would go back and look at it, it's just like this the whole time because it's stuck in there, and I'm just like, I don't
Yep.
want it to look like that. And then
Yep.
you go like, you gonna start over? Or are you just gonna give up on having something
It's just
from today?
I
Can you
just
imagine? Okay, like some of the looks that were really intense took me 8 hours.
yeah.
Yeah, that's over. Like,
I've never been able to do that. Like, my looks are like a half an hour to 45 minutes, and that's like oftentimes I'm done, but I still need to make the content at that point, you know?
yeah, I think I just sat
So,
there and like cried before, right? Because you put
yeah.
all of your energy and you're like, okay, I'm done. Camera's already set up, so all I have to do is press record, and I'm just like, I don't want to press record. I'm tired.
I like so I started that new account with that's just puppets, And I had like 500 saved sounds on my old account. And when your account gets banned, you can download your data, which includes like your favorites, except that none of the links work. So they gave me a file full of links to sounds, and none of them work. And I'm like, so I need to find new sounds, but I don't have
Mhm.
like the mental bandwidth for scrolling to go through to find sounds. And so I've been
Yeah.
like, what, like what, how am I gonna, and if I start doing, because I was thinking about doing a separate clown account eventually. And I'm like, if I'm struggling this much just to do the puppet stuff, how am I gonna find the sounds for? And then I was like, maybe I'll just do the clown stuff and take photos and not even bother with making videos until like I feel better or something. And that way I can still have that outlet, still share it without like stressing myself out by doing something that feels like it's too much.
Yeah. Yeah. Yesterday, I told my kid I'm just gonna quit. Yesterday, I was like, I'm actually just done, and maybe I'll make a video saying I can't do this anymore. And then, like later that day, I had a couple of ideas, and I said, okay, well, I'm only doing those. And I'm just such an unbearable ham that I think I'm not gonna quit, but it might just stay like it is. Or like I haven't recorded anything. I think okay, that's not even true. I recorded only two different faces in March and April, and the second one I never posted any of it because even though it's just sitting there to pick up my phone and go through and make sure it looks okay and put captions and stuff,
Oh
which I
man,
do on TikTok.
the
It's so
tedium
easy.
of posting stuff.
So I'm just letting those rot, and then I go like, why do I even care? And the mess up thing is I do I'm just so tired.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I have like I've been saving clips when I play video games of like stuff that's really funny to me, like when airplanes fall on my character or whatever. And I want to like share them on YouTube, and I sit down to like go through them, and I just like I literally am like, I think I need to take a nap now. Like it's as soon as I go to do it. And I had the same thing happen when I try to like I've been trying to migrate my stuff away from Etsy to like another marketplace. And it's the same thing. My brain is just like, nope, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's like worse because when I'm resting, I'm not really resting. I'm just like ruminating on all of like how me I don't know, I guess giving in to how tired I am is like a waste or some toxic nonsense like that. And I'll be
Yeah.
stressed about it. And then when I go in to do it, I feel so good. I'm like, what a relief. I at least answered all the comments that people left, and I at least just checked in with a few people, and and then I'm like, all right, that does feel like a relief. But then I just go back to resting, and then I feel bad again. I don't know how yet to have some kind of balance, or my just need to be too much and to show people the just random shenanigans, and my need to have peace in what is the last part of my life. However long or short it is, this is the last part, and I don't know where that in between is yet.
I don't know. I've spent the last 10 years trying to find the balance with like pacing and self-care and stuff, but I've been working my whole life. I've always been dealing with stuff that it's so hard, and sometimes I won't realize that when I'm resting that I'm actually beating myself up for not doing other stuff. And it's gotten a little better. I'm a little more selfish about stuff. Like I don't say yes to things as much.
Mhm.
And I am trying to learn to prioritize doing stuff that makes me happy, betters my quality of life, even if it's just in that moment or whatever, rather than doing things that I feel are the responsible things to do or whatever, and trying to find that balance. But I feel like it's like a constant work in progress that I might not ever completely figure out. you know.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like a jerk because people keep encouraging me. And then I'm just like, hey, thanks for your encouragement. I've got it from here. And then I don't. Just like over and over.
Yeah. You just I mean, you just got to do what you can or what you want to. I mean, especially now for you, as you said, it being sort of the end times, however long that is, it should just kind of be about like, what you want to experience as much as you're able to within your limits and stuff.
My poor mom. I don't say that a lot, but my poor mom, when I can't remember exactly when. I don't know if it was like after I had this big surgery to take as many tumors out as they could, or if it was the first 5 rounds of chemo, or just whatever it was, it became clear that nothing had done anything and that they weren't sure what was going on. It turns out that it's messed up because it turns out there was a misdiagnosis, and then I have a much more rare cancer, and it's all these different things. But once they figured that out, nothing has worked since then either. So, but at first, when they first got that like round of appointments after they've tried their best and things didn't work out, and everyone's just bummed, and they're just like, we did everything we could, and we're not going to give up. But it's very unlikely after everything we did not helping that something's really going to fix this. And I'm just like, it's 2019, so I'm just like, are you saying we're in the end game now? And I haven't seen that commercial a lot. Yeah. And then she's just like, well, yeah. And I'm like, that'll show me. And that's fine. But like, my mom's in the background just horrified. And then I have another appointment with a different kind of a doctor, but that's still part of my team. And we go in and see her the same day. And she's like, hey, you look good. I'm like, yeah, I'm in a good mood. And she goes, does that mean you got good news? And I'm like, oh, no, no, no. As a matter of fact, we're in the end game now. And I'm just like, and it was just, and she just like, and it's great. But like, as we're leaving, I see my kid's oncology social worker out in the hallway. She's in that section of the hospital getting lunch. And she's like, hey, it's you. And I'm like, hey, it's you. And she's like, you're looking good. I'm like, yeah, I'm having a fun time. And she's like, so you got good news? And I was like, no, we're in the end game now. And just was
It's
horrified.
it's
And
like
my mom
you can't be in a good mood if you didn't get good news or something, but you're like so amused by the yeah. See, those are kind of jokes that I would make too, but like honestly, I think that I'm trying to think like how my mom would react. I think it would really upset her. She'd probably get really mad at me for making jokes like
here's the
that.
thing. Um, she won't do any kind of show of emotions in front of people. So I knew I was gonna get away with it because every time I did it, there's like so many people around.
My mom just any emotion gets filtered into anger. And if there's people around who don't know her, she's pretty good about being snippy without overly angry. But as soon as there's no one unfamiliar around, then she's like super angry or whatever. And but that's never stopped me like ever.
Also, also, I got a chance to play that pity card because I did just get that news.
Yeah. Yeah. I just basically every time as an adult when she would get angry at me for that kind of humor or behavior that she didn't think was like, I would just be like, well, this is my life. I do what I want, and she'd be like, "Arr," and that would be it.
I can't imagine saying that. I'm like 43. I don't think I'd say that right now. Ooh.
Yeah, I was playing tag with my son in the grocery store and she was with us and she was just like, that's not appropriate. And I'm like, well, I'm the parent, so I get to choose what's appropriate. She was just like, but there was no one else around, which is why. And like I always taught him, be courteous to other people, but if some rules only matter when it's going to impact somebody else, kind of thing. So we were having a good time.
Teach my kid about that pity card because they ended up not just surviving all the stuff, but they're doing a lot better these days. And I told them early on many times. They're just like, well, what do I do? I feel bad because they have that same guilt that you and I have about not being productive and resting too much. And it'd be like, say that you have leukemia. Just say that all the time. I'm like, kid, you
Yeah,
got to play that pity card while you're holding it. They'll take it away. And
seriously.
they're
People
experiencing that part right now.
There's a lot of people who do not respect boundaries. You could say, no, I don't want to do that. And it's like they're not going to respect it unless you give them a reason. It sucks to have to do that. But
Yeah, and
son
it
is
sucks when
similar
the reason
to,
isn't so cut and dry.
yeah. It's, my son's not good at the resting and and I'm always like, because I can see that he has like the sort of the beginning of some of the health issues that I ended up having that stress
Mm.
made worse for me. And I'm just like, take that time and set some boundaries and say no. Sometimes I need his help with stuff, but I'm very like, you know, make sure to balance it. Don't drop everything and stuff like that. Cause I just am like, I want you to I want you to be better at caring for yourself than I have been.
I used to tell my kids stuff like that all the time. Just like, because there's so much going on. Before I ever had cancer, there was so much going on. And I'm just like, I look at them sometimes and I'm like, kid, when you're an adult, if you love me but you don't understand me, I'll know that I did a good job.
Yeah, the chaos. Yeah.
Mhm.
How do you know how long they were sick before they got the leukemia diagnosis or
Oh, symptoms were bad for about 9 months before the diagnosis. That is way too long. Just like with me, the doctor was like, I don't know how you're alive. I don't know how this kid's alive. Like the school had been pressuring us so much to send them every day, no matter how horrible it was. So at death's door, body now incapable of making blood, just looking so gray, and every movement of every kind is painful, and even spending entire days asleep is not enough rest. This person doesn't have long, and it didn't matter. They they had threatened to open a child neglect case and take them away. And I know that every option is bad. Like they either end up with their dad who didn't think they were really sick, or my mom who I don't think really thought that they were sick, or a foster family that wouldn't know anything about what's happening.
yeah.
Um, and I was just like, kid, if you're not with me, I think you're going to die. Even though I'm not doing a good job at getting you to the place where they can help you, we have to do this because it's so much worse if we don't do this. So every day I would get them up, I help them get dressed and send them through the front doors of that school with borrowed crutches from some other family member that didn't need them anymore, just so they can painfully and tearfully make it through that front door so they don't end up in the system while that's sick. And when they finally got to the right people who did the blood work and stuff, it took them seconds, to be honest. It took them like an hour or whatever to be sure, but the triage person was like, how long have you had leukemia? Right to my kid, minute one. Because apparently you can look like you have leukemia. My kid's a lot darker skin than me, so I think it's clear sooner that there's not enough blood flow because it just gets this unnatural color. And yeah, apparently you can just look like you have it. There's just dots everywhere. There's all kinds of different things, but we had this insane reaction to it too. Because I knew that that fight had just ended. Whatever we have to do, that very dehumanizing fight we had just been living for 9 months was over.
Yeah,
So when they're like,
of just
hey,
not being heard, just the magic of getting the diagnosis where they can no longer ignore you.
yeah, and they could never prove neglect because I actually genuinely had done my best. It turns out that I was my symptoms were starting to kick up at that same time too. I thought it was stress, but it is a single parent with cancer carrying a 12-year-old with cancer in their arms part of the time, and it's such a rough story. But when they told us like, okay, they're trying to be like grim to respect the severity of the moment. They're like, you have cancer, you have leukemia, and we're gonna have to do all this stuff, and we're just like, yeah. We're
Yeah,
just like,
like
yeah.
finally.
And then they're just like, no, I don't think you understand. Like, no, I understand. I understand that you know what it is, and I don't even care what it is, as long as you just get going.
Yeah. I think sometimes people don't understand the the torment that comes from not knowing, especially it's one thing if you don't know, but your doctors are taking you seriously and they also don't know, but they're trying to help you. But when they're literally just blowing you off and they're refusing to really look at you, that it's devastating. It's awful. So having that answer, no matter how bad it is just such a
Yeah, because
relief.
for me, I didn't get an answer for 6 more years. I that was crazy.
Yeah.
But I used to say this thing a lot to different doctors who didn't want to listen, and I think you very much relate to this. In fact, I hope I didn't say this both other times, but like, right? but um, sometimes they'd be like, "Hey, the tests they came back, they're all negative," and I would just start to cry, and they're like, "Oh, so you like don't want to be healthy?" And I'm like, "The tests being negative means this wasn't the right test."
Yeah.
And they're just like, "Oh, yeah, but you're being a hypochondriac, like you're not excited, you don't have this." And I'm just like, that just means that there's no explanation. And I'm like, guys, and I've had to tell this to so many doctors, like, guys, the reason I'm not relieved is imagine you totaled your car. And imagine the insurance appraiser comes out and says, good news, it's not totaled. That's very bad news because you still don't have a car and now no one will help.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
I to the first couple of years I was sick, all my blood work was like perfect, with the exception of I had low vitamin D. And then after a couple of years of not being able to eat, I had malnutrition. Those were the only abnormal blood work I've like ever had. Um, Besides, I have like low level constant inflammation. When the doctors are like, oh, that's nothing, I'm like, I feel like that might be something, but okay. Um, and it is so upsetting because I'm like, something is wrong with me, but you're telling me I'm perfectly healthy. And while I'm glad that I don't have any of blah blah blah, what the fuck is wrong with me? And then the last time I got my blood work done in December, I actually had a bunch of stuff that was abnormal, which I've never had before. And they went, oh, we'll just retest again in 6 months. Probably a fluke. First time in my life I've had abnormal blood work. And they're like, it's a fluke. And I'm like, I don't understand. Okay, I'm confused because why do you do the tests if you're not going to use them to do anything?
well, that's the thing is like every time they don't figure it out, your record is a little more against you. Like it sucks, yeah, like the fact that you have to get close to being a doctor to really be heard because you have to know your symptoms, know which symptoms kind of cluster together, know what those clusters are likely indicating, and have all this stats about the whatevers for them
Yeah,
to even like think that there might be something amiss.
yeah,
And
and that
each
and
time
that's
it doesn't
assuming,
work.
yeah, and it's assuming if they don't get offended that you sound smart.
Oh, I know. They're just like, excuse me, WebMD. But it's like, I don't care because every time I didn't do that, it's just like, I'm not feeling well. And they're just like, oh, let me check this out, little lady. And then they go, good news, you're crazy. And it's just
Yeah,
like, So I have to be prepared for that to inevitably happen. And I'm not saying it's like guy doctors either, just all the doctors do that for some reason.
Yeah.
It's weird to have like a woman and you just go like the first time you have a doctor come in, it's a woman and you're like, okay, she's not going to be as misogynistic, but yeah, she is. Like,
I yeah. Uh, I I find I end up relating with the male doctors better than the female doctors because I can like tell them facts and they're like, "Oh, I haven't read that paper," you know? And
and
the female
they'll go
doctors will blow me off. Like, although the one I had my appointment today and we were talking about a couple different things and I was telling her about the papers that I had read and the reason why I had certain concerns and she actually did. She seems like a little more, but she's a nurse practitioner. I found nurse practitioners to be a little more open-minded. So
maybe since the title feels lower, they can stay a little humble. Like,
yeah, could be. Yeah, but it is interesting. I had a doctor. I have ingrown fingernails. It's like one of the special things that my body does, and it's been better recently, just because started learning how to use my fingers to not make it worse. But when it was really bad, it was really, really painful. And my doctor sent me to a doctor, like an orthopedist doctor or whatever, and he looked at it and he was just kind of like, "Well, don't put pressure on your fingers." And then I just like was very upset because I'm like, "Well, how am I supposed to play video games or type or hold my phone or there's like everything, you know." And then he goes, "Well, smile. Don't forget to smile." And I
mm,
just like I just was like and like walked out of the room and went to my car and sobbed. I was like, I don't want to go to prison, but you really make me want to do something to put myself in prison. Like wow. Okay, dude. Just, ugh.
I've had a doctor assume I was just gross and didn't want to examine me and asked if I considered showering. Like, what if you just like shower more? Did you even think about showering more? And like again, this is like I had cancer. Yeah,
Showering is actually the secret treatment for cancer. Did you know? Like
yeah,
what a twat.
yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, no,
unbelievable.
I
That's
did have to
so
just go sit in the car and just be upset for a minute.
yeah, that's everything about that is wrong.
Mhm. But it just always something. There's too much money in it. I think that's what it is. Is there's more people going for the money and the status, and I am a doctor, and then I think it's just kind of it's just less likely that they're there to help people when there's that much at stake. When you get like an elevated status, people go, "Oh, a doctor," even though there are lots of professions that make money. Then like I always thought it was like a money thing, but just a level of respect comes with those words. I'm seeing that more and more, and it just like because I think I just didn't realize before, and it's
Yeah.
just it's weird that they get this elevated place in our society, but it's irrelevant whether they earn it. They can just kind of kick back and torture people and then just kind of just cash in and go, "Yay, status." I don't want to say
Yeah.
nobody go to the doctor. That's the frustrating thing. We have to still go. We have to just roll those dice over and over and over because I've met lots of very concerned and loving people. It just wasn't when I needed it the most.
Yeah. I have like some of the coolest doctors are not in the specialty where I need them to be. And they'll be like, well, why haven't your doctors looked into this? Why haven't your doctors looked?
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, can you? Because they won't. Like, and it's like, do you know somebody that can?
Right.
But I feel like curiosity should be in the foundation of education in general, but especially for people going into the sciences and medical professions and stuff. And it seems like it's the opposite. It seems like they crush the curiosity out of most practitioners.
Yeah. Well, and then I live in a very like area where just like most people, I think it was, I can't remember the statistic, but most people are below the poverty line here. And I feel like that hurts us a little bit because when somebody good comes through town most of the time and they can help people and they're up
Mhm.
to date, they know this stuff, they're fresh out of school, they have empathy, and this whole thing hasn't gotten to them yet. But then what happens is they can't get paid much here. And if you're really good at what you do, you probably aren't comfortable accepting what they're willing to pay you here.
Yeah.
And you move on to where you get you get the payoff for what you put in, and that's almost exclusively away from poor people. It sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, my primary doctor, she used to work somewhere in Central California. I don't remember where, like when she first started out. And she was like at a clinic or whatever. And she said that she used to get patients would bring her, produce from their jobs and stuff, and she really enjoyed that. But she ended up, in the Bay Area working for Stanford. So,
Yeah. Well, and on some level, I get it because, like, medical school is not cheap. You probably have to become a doctor to pay for medical school.
yeah. And I think like a lot of doctors don't get paid as much as they used to either because of changes within the insurance industry and stuff like that. So
And with
it's
changes with universities too, because it's just like,
yeah,
yeah, like, I feel bad, but it must be awful must be like a huge bait and switch, right? To take on the increasing debt that medical school is. And then they go, hey, we're working on things being more fair. So you're not getting those massive payments. Good
yeah,
luck with that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know that, like Stanford where I go, they've been having issues getting nurses and stuff because people during COVID just kind of got fed up with everything, got fed up with too much work, not enough pay and that kind of thing. And
Hmm.
I knew there were some issues, but I was talking to the doctor today about it because I was like, it took you guys 2 months to respond to my emails. And she's like, yeah, we're like super understaffed. And that's not an excuse for you not being treated well, but like, it definitely makes things harder and stuff. And I imagine, for good doctors, it's probably right now a lot harder for them to do their job well because they're spread so thin. And
Hmm.
plus, insurance companies are just dicks. They just make it hard
Yeah,
to do stuff. I don't feel
those
like
old
insurance
timers had
companies
it
should
easy.
be, huh?
Those old timers had it easy.
Yeah.
But the doctors, oh my goodness.
Yeah. I just, I just feel like insurance companies shouldn't have the level of control they have. Like, they shouldn't be allowed to, it's like if they don't want to be in the business of insuring people properly, they shouldn't be in the business. Like,
Yeah.
it just shouldn't be for profit. There's something really immoral about people's health being for profit. It doesn't mean that people don't deserve to get paid for the work they do or for their inventions or whatever. But I mean, there's literally medications that, like, when they did the trials, helped people, but were never taken to market because there weren't enough of people with that condition to make it worth the money to the pharmaceutical company to put it on the market. And that to me
Profit
is
actually has to
insane.
come first. Like, and it's gross that
Yeah.
that's a business. Like, I've had doctors that are very sympathetic and they heard about the latest thing and it would have helped. And they tried for like a month. And I'm like, hey, where you guys been with the things? And they're like, we got rejected multiple times by the insurance. I can't give you this that would help.
Yeah.
And I've seen a doctor be kind of crushed, be like, I don't know how this could happen. I'm like, oh, I know how. It's cheaper for them if I die.
Yeah. And that just shouldn't be, it just shouldn't be
Hmm.
like that. Most of my medications are not covered by insurance and I just have to pay for them. And I don't take all the medications I'm supposed to be taking because I can't afford to pay for them because my insurance literally just doesn't cover it. But the pharmaceutical company offers um, assistance, but only if you have no insurance. It doesn't matter if you don't get coverage, you have to have zero insurance. And I'm like, that's a fucked up loop. to have to work around, you know?
I feel bad all the time. I'm getting married, and Samantha lives in Canada, and so for her life, she hasn't really had to think about the ramifications of having to
Mhm.
have a doctor's appointment, and now she's
Yeah.
gonna have to, and I don't want to watch someone go through that.
Yeah.
um, Although she's just like, I am a grown adult and I love you and I want you to be near your doctors, so this is what I'm choosing to do. And I'm just like, oh,
Yeah. Hopefully, hopefully, especially being in California, it won't be as jarring, but you know, I mean, there's some things that are better here. Like, say their gallbladder went bad in Canada, you might have to wait a year to get it removed and have gallbladder tax for a year. But here, it'll probably be removed in like 3 or 4 weeks. Like,
Yeah, wow.
that's
Yeah,
about
no,
it,
I've heard
though.
that from some of them about the weights.
Yeah.
That is, yeah, that's rough.
And I like joined all these like these Reddits where I, read people's experiences because it helps me sort of compile information. And so I joined the gallbladder one when my gallbladder went wackadoo. And the people in the UK and Canada, they wait a really long time when they have gallstones and stuff, and that can be like pretty dangerous. So some of them don't end up getting surgery until they have to go to the ER for it or whatever. And I'm like, yes, and they could they need to fix that part of the system, you know?
Yeah, no, that's rough. So I had to have mine taken out. And I did wait several years of having gallstone attacks, but that's because no one could figure out what they were. Can you believe that? I think
I believe it.
multiple years. I don't know, it was like 4 years where I just have occasionally I have these like stabbing pain in my lower abdomen, and I just have to be down for the count. And everyone's like, "These are really convenient. You're lazy." And then one day they do like a sonogram to see if there's any gallstones, and the doctor was just like, I can see 10 from here, just on my naked eye is just on the thing. Um, if you eat anything that would cause it to move or mess with it at all, or just for no reason, you're going to have another attack. You're gonna probably have multiple attacks, because we got to set you up with a surgeon, and it's gonna be like a month. And I was just like,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
I get how hard it would be to wait for that long, but I just didn't have a choice. I can't imagine waiting a year at that point, like knowing knowing they know what it is and what to do.
yeah. And then because there comes a point when the gallbladder gets bad enough that it doesn't even matter what you eat anymore. It just gets wackadoo and it's very angry at you all the time. And yeah, I have gallbladder pain, but thankfully it isn't the kind of attacks like what I've read about. They sound horrible.
Yeah, it was horrible. And you know the funny thing is, I was stoked to not have that kind of pain anymore. Boom, cancer back.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
my body joint abdominal cavity is like, hold my beer, right? Like
Yeah. Man, when my gallbladder went crazy, and they did the test to find what was wrong, I was like, part of me was like, "Oh, cool, we figured it out. Maybe this has been part of the issue for a long time because it's a gallbladder dysfunction thing rather than stones." And then they're like, "No, no, no, that can't be the cause." I was like, "Oh." But then I started
I
reading
know.
about removal and the side effects to removal and how underreported they are, and I was like, Mm, maybe maybe we'll just leave it there until it gets bad, like really bad, and then we'll find out. Because I started being like, I've since the last few years, I've been able to eat more foods and be a little less scared of food. The idea that I might go and willingly have a surgery that could potentially like ruin that, it's like really scary to me, So I don't know. We'll see. It's statistically probably it would be fine, but I'm just gonna wait to put my body through that.
Yeah. But you know what? It's an ongoing situation, and we're gonna have several graphs and things over the course of the podcast. Where we're gonna track your gallbladder. Gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I told the doctor today, I was like, I just want you to know that I do not want to forget about the gallbladder. The surgeon I talked to was completely pointless. And she was like, like made this face, but she didn't want to. And then I was like, because he told me that the only gallbladder pain that mattered was when it was 20 minutes after eating. And she was like,
What?
she like looked away for the camera, like what? And I was like, if you read anything for even 5 minutes on the internet, from any reputable medical source, you're going to know that that's not true. And I was like, so, I'm not in a hurry to get surgery, but there's something wrong with my gallbladder. It causes me regular pain. And when it gets worse, we will do something about it. So I want to keep it on our radar so that when it gets worse, we don't act like it's a new thing and I have to jump through a bunch of hoops again. And she was like, okay. But yeah, that surgeon, I was just like, dude, nope. Next surgeon
Yeah.
will not be a boomer, okay?
Yeah, like I don't have a psychiatrist right now, and I'm worried because they put me on this medication. It's supposed to help with intrusive thoughts, and it really does. But also, coincidentally, it helps people that are autistic with their symptoms. And I'm not diagnosed, but it has really helped with my symptoms a lot. But my psychiatrist moved to the Bay Area, as you do. You know? so
Yeah.
I got a new person, and on day one I'm like, hey, I've been trying for like my whole life, but I want to see if you can at least evaluate me for ADHD and autism. It would be the best. And she was just like, no. And I'm like,
No.
what? And she's like, no.
Why?
And I was like, why? And she goes, well, studies show over and over that like treating adults doesn't help. So there's no point in diagnosing adults. So I won't. And she's like smiling the whole time. And I was just like, just got like
There-
chills.
I have done so much reading and I have never seen a study that says that.
Yeah. And this is a
Uh,
doctor. And so I'm like, I'd rather run out of my medication and have a crisis than have this person in charge of my care. This is bad.
yeah. Can you do video calls with the doctor that moved away?
I don't know what happened. Maybe the place she's at now won't take my insurance because that was just unplugged and just uh,
Yeah.
I the messed up thing is, okay, I had like a crisis. Self-harm is like my go-to when I have a crisis. And it's rare now. Something very bad had happened. And it has to because it's rare now, and I'm in more control than I've ever been. But uh, maybe beginning of 2022, something like that. I had a crisis, and they didn't want to bring in inpatient people to a facility, and I got to be treated through where my oncologist works, um, through video things. So kind of like video 5150 type deal. It was kind of cool, kind of cool. And we did all these different group things and whatever. And there's a psychiatrist on staff, but he just talks to people one on one a couple of times. It's a short thing. You're meant to just kind of go on and do your own thing and make your own arrangements. But at one point, he's just like, "We have limited time. What's the hardest thing?" And I said, no question. I don't even think about it as intrusive thoughts. Like I'm always one intrusive thought away from everything just coming completely unglued. And besides that, I'm a relatively happy and peaceful person. Gets along with people. I'm getting more and more control over how symptomy I get from like trauma and whatever. But that's what gets me almost 100% of the time when it goes badly. And he's like, oh, this helps with that. And I'm like, thanks, pal. And I've just been getting refills on it since then, but not found somebody who really wants to look into all of that. And I know maybe it doesn't seem worth it because like there's no telling how long I have, but I want to be the best version of me, and I don't care how long.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, I have no having answers and knowing ourselves and having access to tools. It's like it matters. It doesn't, like it's like, I mean, the idea that you shouldn't get those things just because you might die soon or not. It's like telling someone in their 80s that they shouldn't, fix the
Right?
running toilet in their house because they're going to die soon anyway. Like,
That is a really good point. Nobody does that, or like the bad people do that. I don't know, but you
yeah, I
shouldn't
was
do
gonna
that.
say my ex does that to her mother, and it's awful. It's like just knowing that she does that is so stressful because it's so not okay.
But I gotta think about it like that. If instead of having cancer, I was just lucky enough to get to the older ages the rest of my family does, which is quite a bit of things not going catastrophically wrong. So it would be a huge string of things going well. But yeah, like I don't think I'd think twice about making sure things were comfortable for the rest
Yeah,
of what I got left. It's not different because it's a different reason.
no, yeah, yeah. Your
Neat.
quality of life matters no matter what question it is you want answered or whatever. Yeah, I sent an email today to a clinic at UCSF that they work with um, autistic people and people sensory stuff and asked them some questions about if they do evaluations or if they know where within UCSF I could go. Because the GI nurse practitioner and I were talking about that, and I was like, a lot of the health issues that I've been diagnosed with are common comorbidities for with autism because there's a genetic link. And the people I know that have these health issues that have the autism diagnosis have also had their genetics done, and that has shaped their treatment. And as a result, they have better results because of that. And I'm like, I want that care. And Stanford told me I'm not sick enough to get that care, even though I haven't been able to work for a decade and my quality of life is shit. Um, I'm not sick enough and I'm not high needs enough for evaluation. And I would just like, but at UCSF, they actually use genetics, even at the primary care level. So I'm like, I want that. So I'm gonna work on getting in there, So I sent that
Yeah.
email today.
Well, that's great. I can't wait to hear how that goes. But yeah, no, I've been told stuff like that too. It's like, well, you're doing fine. We take care of people with issues. And just because you have stubbornly and tenaciously held on through stuff that you don't even know how you did it does not mean that you're fine. It was just like before I got diagnosed with cancer, I have all these scars on the inside of my mouth from attempting to eat and like failing hard, like just different stuff. I'm like being like in a wheelchair and just having all of these issues getting to the bathroom and getting enough water in me that I'll live and stuff. And I would still, because I'm a clown down to my bones. And so if I have an audience almost any time, I'm going to use it. So I am like cracking jokes with the nurses because I don't have good impulse control. And they're just like, you're being awfully dramatic for someone that was laughing 10 minutes ago. And then all my symptoms would just be thrown out the window
Yeah.
because if you're in a good mood, you're probably fine. And I hate that. I can't tell you how many times I just like sat home like just weeping. And I'm like, I wish I couldn't smile because then people would know how I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I
I've
can
thought
really
that.
can't help it. It's just like you hear about like how Houdini died.
I don't think so.
Like I think early on in his career when he's still getting stuff figured out, he's like letting people punch him in the stomach for like a couple of bucks. And people could punch him in the stomach as hard as they could. Nothing bad would happen. Boom, magic. And that's early on when he's still just a small timer. And like the secret was apparently he would just do hundreds and hundreds of crunches every day and had just massive abdominal wall where it really didn't matter. And that last year he's doing the Prestige Magic, right? He's got this big production. He's got this amazing show with this full crowd, and they're all excited to be there. And backstage, this guy shows up, and he's just like, "Gee whiz, Mister! I never got to punch you in the stomach back in the day because I didn't have a dollar. Can I punch you in the stomach?" And he's like, "Sure, kid," and it ruptures something, and he goes and does the show. And I think at and I could be getting things a little sketchy from here, but I think at intermission he's telling the wife, like, "I don't feel good, maybe call a doctor so that I can talk to him after the show." And he finishes out the show and then dies of internal bleeding.
Wow.
And he didn't want people to not get their money's worth out of their tickets, and just had that guilt complex, and just had an audience, literally had an audience sitting there, and it didn't matter what the stakes were. Not that it was probably clear what the stakes were, but I have felt multiple times in my life that I have that same level of some kind of show must go on disorder, because I'm in
Yeah.
there to beg for my life. But then when somebody says, "Oh, the things," and I'm like, "Waka waka," and I'm just like, and it wrecks it because they want you to look like a tragedy, and I
Yeah.
struggle with that.
I can't, I'm not good at emoting. Like I laugh if you make me laugh, but otherwise I tend to be very flat. And I think that, and because I tend to be well spoken, so like I don't go in and seem like, a mess. And so I think I have the same issue for a slightly different reason, but it's, and I sometimes wish that I could be more upset. I mean, even when I was in labor with my son, I was very calm, very, very calm. There was no screaming or whatever. And so they told me when I asked for an epidural that I was not in pain. And I had to throw up bile for them to believe that I was in pain because I wasn't doing what women normally do. It's just I just go to another place when I'm in pain. I don't, I've been in
Yeah.
pain since I was a kid, so that's my coping mechanism. And you know, but I have a friend who she's going through a whole bunch of health stuff, potential cancer, not really sure yet, but she now has sarcoidosis. And when it first kicked in, every doctor was like, no, that doctor needs to treat you. And they were shuffling her around and not giving her meds. And she's having like these horrific symptoms. And she started crying. And the doctor, instead of helping her with the diagnosed fucking issues she's living with, um, gave her Ativan
Mm-hmm.
and told her to get a therapist because she cried. And it's just like, so it's like you can't win. You just can't, if we were more emotional, then we'd be hysterical, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, I've had people kind of like, "Oh, I wish I could just really just put it all out there and then they could see it." And I go, "No, I do that." They don't like that either. They
Yeah.
really just want to rush you in and out as quickly as possible. And everyone that doesn't have something obvious and easy is going to have to go more than once. And that's just the unspoken rules, and it's awful. But yeah, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, you and me are having the same reaction for a different reason. Like I'm very dramatic in my speech, and I think sometimes it sounds like I'm just blah 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 and the stuff and the whatevers, and it doesn't matter that what I'm saying is true. That's just my manner of speech because, again, I'm a clown. But
Yeah.
I think with you have a very you can be precise, and you're saying everything with intention to kind of bridge anything that could be a gap before it happens. But I think both of us are being perceived as, this person's trying to trick me because of our two different speech patterns. They're just like,
Yeah.
"You're not going to trick me," and it's like, "No, no, 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 wait, 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 wait,
They
wait,
like,
wait."
I'll like say exactly what I mean, and then they respond like I said something else. And I'm like, and I can't even, I'm like, what? I said, no, no, I didn't. There was no read between the lines with me. I mean it. And I actually, with doctors, once I get to know them, I'll be like, I mean exactly what I say. I'm very literal. And, so if you think I'm saying something else, tell me so that I can clarify, but I'm probably not saying that.
Yeah, and yeah, no, same with me. I'll be like, I'm very dramatic when I speak, but I mean it. And you want to have any follow-up questions? I will literally answer any questions you got about anything. You're like, but yeah, no, it's yeah, it's
Yeah.
Speech is
It's like
such a fascinating thing, right? And the neurotypical people and their verbal whack-a-mole, they're just like, the rules are if I say this, it makes you think this over here. And so as long as you say this, I can tell. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Don't guess what I mean by what I say. Just hear what I say. And they're like, that's not how it works at all. And I just,
like, I wish I could just have
oh my
autistic
God,
doctors,
I know, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, like it'd be so nice. I feel like they'd be really good doctors for us at
Yeah,
least.
I know. And then probably like a lot of the patients would be like, I don't trust that doctor. They say everything weird.
Yeah. Like, could you imagine like a neurotypical patient, like they say my butt hurts, but what they actually mean is that they pulled their calf muscle. That's
It
what
feels like
communicating
that.
with a neurotypical, that's like that's how much sense it makes to not say what you mean. Like,
If you have like dealt with people like that where it's like somebody new to your life and they want to get you something for Christmas, I don't know, some kind of acquaintance type deal, and they get you the most wrong thing possible. They're like, but I heard you talking about it. And it was like, I talk about that around you because you like that. I'm relating to you. And they're like, but why else would you do that unless you were interested? And I'm just like, dumbfounded. I've gotten somebody like this very special candy. I'm like, oh wow, that one pine nut candy that they make by hand and the little things. I'm like, I got that. Don't you love it? And they're like, I do love it. Have some. And I'm like, oh, that's disgusting. No, I don't want that. Well, why would you buy it if you didn't want any? And I just like
because you
to
like
get an
it.
error message.
Yeah. You ever just I like feel like I specialize in other people without even making an effort. I just absorb all this information. And so like if I do give gifts, I give like gifts. They're like, wow, I- how did you know? Right. And then people give me gifts and I'm like, I'm gonna donate this, like because and it's the same for sending and receiving videos or memes or whatever. Like I don't send stuff to people very often, but when I do, it's for them. It's because I saw it and I went, they're going to like this. I'm pretty sure, 95% sure. And I can tell the people who think about me and what I like before they send me videos, and the people who are sending me videos that they like because they like me or whatever, but they don't actually know me. And it's very interesting the difference in, and there's people whose DMs I read and people's DMs that I look at like once a month.
Yeah, because it can get really overwhelming. It can get really
Yeah.
overwhelming. So like, I have some friends that it's clear from the videos they forward me that they they haven't started to understand me after however many years, and I feel like a jerk, but I'll just like skip around until they have something to say,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, "Ugh."
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just sometimes they send too many, but sometimes it's just that
It's just
I,
not,
yeah,
I
I
don't,
can't.
it's not, I don't want to spend any moment of my life taking in content that I am not, it's not for me. Like I'm very, I feel like our time is precious and that's 6 seconds that I'm never going to get back. So yeah, I just don't, there's a lot of stuff I just don't look. And I used to feel guilty. I don't anymore, you know? And, I have one person that sends me stuff and they used to send me like, I was just like, why are you sending me this? This is awful. This is not, and I was like, when you send me something, can you give me context by giving me a comment so that I understand? Because I assume you're saying this to me because you like it, but when I watch it, it's devoid of any value because I don't know why you like it, right? And so they
Yeah,
started doing that. And over the last year, almost everything they send me, I like now
well, in
because
context,
well, I think also because they started thinking about why they were sending me stuff. And so the quality of
hey,
the stuff they sent got better as well. But it did make it easier because I was like, I'm interested in this person enough. I want to understand why they're sending it to me. But most people I'm like, you know, it's a few people get my humor pretty well and they'll send me stuff. And as soon as I see I got a message from them, I'm like, oh, I gotta go look at that one.
do you ever have somebody who's neurotypical send you the coolest thing about autistic people thing that they found, and it's just like you don't know what to say because it's so insulting, and you got to like they don't know, and I just gotta because it's just it gets so awkward that sometimes I'm like I wonder how long I can get away with, or just like I wonder if I can just change the subject without them noticing. Because like,
I
I was thinking about you when I saw this, and then I just watch it, and I'm like,
I have not had that experience, but I think that most of the people that I interact with regularly are not neurotypical, and that's generally been the case over the years. Like a lot of my friends when I was younger were autistic, and when I came out and went, I think I'm autistic, they're like, you didn't know? Like I'm like, oh. But the only videos I've gotten from someone that I'm pretty sure is neurotypical. His therapist thinks he's neurotypical. He sent me stuff that was educational to him, and he asked me, "Is it like this for you?" Or he said, "This reminds me of you because you've told me blah blah blah." That's it. And it was totally relatable stuff. So it wasn't stuff that made me go, "Oh." But I have at my son's wedding, he was standing with his friends and he was wearing a hat and he has a really big head, which is common in autism, to have, big heads. And I just went, it's because you're autistic. And I wasn't thinking about the fact that like in my social group, that being autistic's not seen as like a bad thing at all. It's just, it just is. And in his social group, that's still something that they kind of would make fun of, right? And so everybody got like really uncomfortable,
ah,
and he and I are just like kind of cracking up, and I didn't get it until I saw the body language change, but I didn't understand it. And then later we had a conversation about it, and he's like, yeah, you're the only person I know that uses it like a compliment, you know? And and I was like, well, I think that's better. And he started doing it too. So
yeah, oh, for sure.
he's starting to take the tests online and starting to embrace it because it's there. I'm like, dude, it's there. But
Yeah,
it took a bit of, you know.
but yeah, no, oh, this sucks. I hope she doesn't watch it. Um, I had this friend that I don't know. She called me one night, just like really upset, and she was crying, and she's just like, "My family's visiting. I can't handle having them here." And I'm like, "I get it. It's awful." And there's just so many. When everyone's adults, it's so much harder to have all those personalities mesh like they used to. And and she's just like, yeah, a bunch of them got together, and when I was talking, they like interrupted what I was saying and said that I was autistic. And she's crying, and I'm just like, well, I mean, you get along with me, so that's like that's not a good sign. And what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, I'm all kinds of symptomy, and we get along very well. And I think it starts to become clear to her that she's horrified at the idea of being an autistic person, brought that to an autistic person that she really enjoys talking to. And then it got all convoluted for a minute. But I think, yeah, people would warn me, like neurotypical people, I don't know, would just warn me to not talk about it because it's like, nobody's got to know. I'm like, nobody's got to know, but I'm fine. And like, I
Yeah.
tell people I'm mentally ill, and I tell people I have cancer. And and sometimes I just go, I'm nuts, like whatever. Hey, it's my illnesses. I'm gonna use them however I want. But like,
Yeah.
I don't call anyone that, but that's mine. But yeah, I don't like when people try and stop me from saying that stuff. They go, "Ooh, don't talk about yourself like that," or "Who told you that?" or "Don't let people make you feel that way." So I want to get mad, but I can tell since they don't understand already that that's not going to help. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I accept me and I actually enjoy that I'm like this. And now that I know the reasons why I like this, I'm enjoying it a lot more. So you don't have to feel bad, and there's no reason to tell me not to say background information. I also have this height and this eye color. It's just stuff that happened.
Yeah. I've I think in that regard I've been very lucky that when I do talk about that stuff, I haven't gotten that response. I do get silence sometimes, and who knows what's packed into that. It's not my job
Yeah.
to fill that. Um, but most people have been either really supportive or like didn't understand how I didn't know before. That's been like the most consistent, like, I mean, I had I have this friend who I haven't seen him in person in a long time. Him and his wife is friends with both of them, and he's autistic, his kids are autistic, his wife probably is, but she's not diagnosed, but just how well we got along and we communicated and stuff. And then you know, so we always hung out, and to me I was just like, he's like 10 times cooler because I've always thought autistic people were cool. My favorite people, like, TV characters, Egon, Spock, like Data, like, and
Data
so
was my
like,
hero. Oh my goodness.
yeah, so I took like tests in like 2007 or something, like online ones, and my answers put me in the you could potentially be blah blah blah, could get evaluated kind of thing. And I was like, no, there's no, it's just my personality. I'm not that cool. Like, you know, and it's the same for my son when he took the test, it's the same thing. And then this time I went and took the tests on Embracing Autism, their website, and it's put together where they take by autistic people, like psychologists and stuff. And I got like these really high scores and stuff. And I was like, okay, okay, yeah. And the more I learned about it, the more I learned about myself through learning about autism. And then I like myself more. I have this understanding for things that have always made me, feel so separate, like daydreaming that I was from another planet when I was a little kid. I did that obsessively when I was a little kid because I didn't fit. And it was so hard for me to be around other kids. And I just, it was easier to be around adults because they were a little easier to talk to. But just learning about that. So I was like, even if I went to a doctor and they were like, no, we don't think you have that, I would probably not agree with them because, it literally nothing has ever explained. I even my stepmom, when I was a teenager, she was really into self-help books and therapy, and she got books on how to communicate with a teenager, and she was like, none of these apply to you, like, at all. She's like, I cannot figure out how to like reach you because none of these books apply to you. And I am positive that if she was alive today and I was like, hey, I think I'm autistic, she would probably be like, that makes so much sense. It's like she would probably be excited for me because, like, you know,
A lot of relatives were like, I talked to my grandparents about it and they weren't really sold on it. And they went to go talk to some of their friends and some of their relatives, because like some of my great aunts and great uncles and people that I don't know, just they have their ear to the pulse of things a little bit more, because they're like, and every person they talk to, they're like, says that she's like this thing. I can't remember, starts with the A, and they're like, oh, it's autistic. Oh my goodness, I just said the name twice. All right, well, there we go. Anyway, they're just like, and they're just like, oh yeah, everyone immediately was like, oh, that explains all the things, which I guess it does. I guess it sure does. It is just, if that's, I think that's
everybody, sorry for the interruption. We ran long, about 3 hours. So I split it in half. Part two will be next week. And you can hear the second part of the conversation then. Thank you, as always, for listening. And if you ever have, like questions or whatever, you can leave comments on the podcast on Spotify or YouTube, or you can even email me. The information is in the snippet thing for the episode. Yeah, so see you next week.